But first, with less than 2 weeks to go until Election Day, close to 30 million Americans have already cast their ballots. We'll take a closer look at the numbers and what they could mean for the candidates. On the campaign trail, Vice President Kamala Harris is seeking to boost her campaign tonight with more star power. She will hold a Get Out the Vote rally in Georgia tonight alongside former President Barack Obama and the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Last night at a CNN town hall, she seized on claims from former President Trump's chief of staff that he praised Hitler. Listen.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Former President Trump goes on the defensive against his former White House ally on social media, calling John Kelly, quote, a total degenerate. On the campaign trail, Trump is out west today holding rallies in the battleground states of Arizona and Nevada. Nikole Killion and Huey-Burns are tracking both campaigns for us. Nikole is following the vice president in Georgia, and Caitlin is with the former president in Tempe, Arizona. Nikole, great to be with you. Tonight, the vice president will be joined by former President Obama and Bruce Springsteen in Georgia. And also, we have learned that Beyonce will join her on the trail tomorrow in Texas. What kind of impact does this celebrity influence bring to the campaign?
Well, I don't know about the Beyonce impact because that is pretty powerful, as well as Taylor Swift, who has come out in support of the vice president. But look, you know, there's some debate about whether these celebrity endorsements and appearances really matter. At the end of the day, I think what the campaign is trying to do is really energize voters, get them out here, get them hyped, if you will, to vote, to tell their neighbors to vote if they haven't already done so. This is really kind of more of a motivational boost, if you will. We heard from the vice president earlier today, and she says that she believes, you know, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or the former president being out here tonight, that this is really showcasing the breadth of support that she has for her campaign. So, of course, any campaign and any candidate is going to milk that for what it's worth.
Yeah, no one's going to say no to Beyonce if they want to come and support you on stage.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So at this point, Nikole,
no.
Millions of voters have already cast their ballots, and I wonder who the Harris campaign is trying to reach with tonight's event. If there's any one group in particular, or really anybody that's watching.
Yeah, well, really here in Georgia, this is a critical part of the Harris campaign's Sun Belt strategy, and the former president's for that part too, right? I mean, look, the former president who was just here last night wants to flip this state back into the red column, but in terms of Democrats, they saw those gains made when President Biden flipped the state for the first time in 30 years back in 2020, held the state again with the election of Senators Ossoff and Warnock, who again had to run back in 2022 multiple times in runoff races to continue to hold that seat. So Democrats would really like to keep the state in their column as well. But what is critical when you're running in a state like Georgia is you really have to turn out a multicultural coalition, primarily one centered on African-American voters, which make up about a third of the electorate in this state. And there has been some concern that the vice president has lost some ground with black voters, but some of the voters we talked to here today say they aren't concerned about that. Take a listen.
If you look at the turnouts that continue to come out, when she was just at Lakewood here previously, when she was just at Dr. Jamal Bryant's church, the turnout is massive. We know what we're fighting for.
So many younger people are misinformed, and they're misinformed because they don't take the time out to learn the political system.
So that gentleman I talked to at the very end, you know, I asked him in particular about support from African-American males because that is a demographic that we know the vice president has been actively courting. We know former President Obama has made some very direct appeals to black men not to sit on the sidelines and to back the vice president. And so what this gentleman told me is that while he is somebody who is enthusiastic about the Harris-Walz ticket, he did acknowledge that there are some African-American males who have some reservations. He he's particularly concerned about young African-American males who he feels may, to a certain extent, be getting misinformation in terms of social media, and that's a big concern that he has in terms of the type of messaging that they're getting, whether or not that's kind of coloring their views of the candidates and the campaigns. But anyway, certainly a critical demographic to watch going forward.
And Caitlin, I want to turn to you now because you are in Arizona with former President Trump, and you've been talking with canvassers who are door knocking there, trying to get people to vote for the ballot measure that would enshrine abortion rights into the state's constitution. What are you hearing from them?
Yeah, there's a really interesting dynamic here in Arizona. Our CBS News polling shows Trump with a slight edge over Harris here, but there's also majority support for that ballot measure. And so the question is, does that translate to support for Kamala Harris? Our polling shows that that's not necessarily the case, because 1 in 5 voters in our poll say that they're voting for the ballot measure and also for Donald Trump. But that hasn't stopped these canvassers that we followed yesterday, who are really hoping to turn out voters for the measure and in turn turn out voters up and down the ballot. Listen to what they had to say.
I'm passionate about it. I have 2 daughters that are, of the age where they want to start families, and just the stories that I've heard when sitting tables and talking to people, getting signatures, they've shared a lot of really horrific stories about what they've had to go through.
I have a daughter. I can't even imagine her having less rights than I had when I was at her age.
Caitlin, Huey-Burns, and Nikole Killion on the trail, thank you so much.